Hey everybody, it's almost ice fishing season. I thought we were getting really close, and then we had a few pretty bad snowstorms that I think have put the kibosh on our ice forming on the lakes for a little while. That's okay, I can wait. In the meantime, I thought I'd look at some underwater footage I took back in October of some perspective ice lures that I'm really kind of excited about. I tested 5 lures from Al's Goldfish Lure Company, which has been around since 1952. I'm always looking for something a little bit different, something that's new to me and hopefully new to the fish in my area. In those high pressure fishing situations where, like on Lake Mille Lacs, where fish have seen a great variety of lures. They see quite a lot of fishing pressure throughout the year. Something new and different might just be the thing that gets them to bite. So I'm always looking to experiment there, and I'm always looking to experiment for trout, lake trout and stream trout, because they're extremely active and it's kind of fun. They love things like spoons, but you can't always get them to bite. Sometimes it's hard to trigger that bite, and I think sometimes if we can play around with the presentation, play around with lure action a little bit, that might be the key. Now what I found in these tests of these 5 lures is these have a lot of action on the drop. Most of them, if they don't flutter side to side going down, they will rock front to back. Sometimes it's kind of a combination of both, and this is kind of hard to see, and so I'll slow down the video in places so you can see what's happening. But the fall is kind of erratic and unpredictable, which I like, which I think might be an asset in a kind of a fast presentation. The first one I tested was the original Al's Goldfish in 1/4 ounce. It's gold with some orange on it, and I liked what I saw. And what I saw was there is an awful lot of flash. It really shows up under the water. Whether it's rocking or fluttering, it's putting off a lot of vibration, a lot of flash, and this one in particular hits the bottom a little bit harder, which is great if you're trying to trigger fish by hopping it up and down off the bottom, kicking up a cloud of sediment, trying to attract or trigger those fish that might gather around it while it's doing that. Now, another one I tried was what's basically the Al's Goldfish profile, but it has a perch image printed on, not just one, but both sides, and it really does look great in the water, like a little tiny perch. Now this one is sold, that's called the Living Lure finish, and this one is sold as an ice jig. The hook attachment is at the other end, and there's a single hook at the kind of nose end. So it fishes more upside down. Now I loved this little lure. It looks great bouncing off the bottom. It looks like a little perch that, I don't know, might be struggling a little bit, or is kind of poking around on the bottom and is totally oblivious to whatever predator fish might be closing in. I love that. It didn't have much flutter, but it did rock side to side, or end to end, on the drop. The next one I tested dockside was the one called Water Witch, and this is a 1/4 ounce, and this one is in all gold finish. Now, like the original Al's, I saw an awful lot of flash, which I like, especially in a dark or stained water. I think that's an asset. And like the original Al's, there was a lot of end-to-end rocking motion on the fall. Also good was the fact that when I pulled it up, there was very little spinning, which of course causes line twist. Now we'll get to that in a minute. Now the Water Witch was kind of the pleasant surprise in that I didn't know what to expect, but I really liked the action of it. I really liked how erratic it was in the water, and I'm looking forward to experimenting with that. Now the next one I tested is the Helgy in black finish. It's a 1/4 ounce, is about 2 inches long. The back of it is a nickel, a bright nickel metallic, And when it fell in the water, it fell with the painted side down, so that metallic side created a lot of flash, which is good. I like that. And while I liked the amount of flash that this lure put off on the drop, the Helgy proved to be probably the most problematic of the 5 lures I tested. If I popped the rod tip up too fast, it would swim in a circle and the hook would get the line. Also, if I pulled up on it too fast, the lure would spin going up, which of course twists the line, and that's something we don't need or want. The good news is, if I fished it slower, I didn't really have these problems. So this is probably a lure that I'm going to want to use in a less aggressive presentation. And I'll also probably experiment with putting the hook on the other end to see what that might change. Now the last one I tested was the Lil 49er in copper and orange. The 49er has been around. It's a little bit bigger, but the Lil 49er has been configured for ice fishing. It's a little bit smaller, and it has the hook on the nose end. On the drop, I found that there was, like with the other metallic colors, a lot of flash, and the Lil 49er did a lot of end-to-end rocking, although sometimes it did flutter, and so it was a little bit erratic that way. I also found that on the lift, it did very little to no spinning, which will help keep the line from twisting. That's definitely a good thing. And that's the Lil 49er. Overall, I have to say I was very pleased with the images I got of these lures. I saw a lot of promising action down there. A lot of stuff that I'm really looking forward to experimenting and playing with and trying to test on actual fish. So I can't wait for my ice fishing season. I'm also going to try and turning some of these lures around and try and see what happens when the hook attachment is on the opposite end. See how that might affect the action and all of that. Now, as far as some of the problems like hook fouling, every ice fisherman knows these are not problems that are unique to these lures. It happens with all kinds of jigging spoons, cicadas, sonars, blade baits, that is, swimming type baits. They all can have this happen. So it kind of depends on the way you jig and a little bit of luck. So just knowing that sometimes, especially like with the Helgy, that a slower presentation will keep that from happening. Knowledge is power. And so as this has been helpful for me, maybe and hopefully this will be helpful for you as you're thinking about the kind of fishing you're going to be doing this ice season and what kind of lures might be helpful for your type of fishing. Like I say, I'm looking forward to my own experimentation. Maybe you have some previous experience that you want to share. Please do that down in the comments. And we'll see you out on the ice. Thanks.